Welcome, travelers. We're aware that your journey was difficult, but prepare to have your questions answered, for you have been granted an audience with the Masters of Modern.
Welcome back to Masters of Modern. I'm your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman.
What's up, guys? You just missed a sweet pack war. If you are just listening to this or watching this, you can go and check that out on YouTube. But we're here for the Masters of Modern podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the live stream and also the recorded stream. For those of you who are watching this on Thursday with like the audio synced instead of the possibly peaking audio that is going through the camera that we're using.
There's like so many different levels of this now. There's like the live stream Tuesday, the video Thursday, the video without the pack war on Thursday. There's the pack war video that goes up
on Wednesday.
There's so many things.
Yeah, we're going to more content coming to you guys. We're going to start doing a Monday weekend update. Ben's going to start recording that and releasing it on the YouTube channel as well. And we're also going to eventually get to streaming and releasing video content of Ben playing Wacky Brews on Moto once he figures out how to play Moto.
There's a lot of really cool stuff going on that's going to be fun. So let's all
make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think that's the first shout out we'll do today.
I think that's the easiest one. Yeah, exactly. Guys, with the YouTube channel launched about 6 weeks ago, and it's been really nice. We've had some comments on there being like, I never used to listen, but now I'm doing it because you guys are on YouTube. So that's really exciting for us, and we're going to keep doing that.
And then also check out the Command Zone, our sister podcast. They're also on YouTube. We're also both at Collected.company, and they do game nights and awesome stuff, and are very, 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 very awesome.
Yeah, so they're great.
Josh Lee Kwai is hosting PAX West.
He's hosting it?
He's one of the main hosts of Wizards PAX West event stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Really cool. Yep. That's announced, I think, today.
That Command Zone show
people tweeted about it, so I feel like I can talk about it. I knew about it because he is sadly missing my wedding one tier.
He's missing your wedding now because of it?
Yeah, because PAX is on the same day as my wedding.
Oh, that's brutal.
Same time.
Well, congratulations, Josh.
No, it's awesome. I'm happy for him, and that's really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
We will miss you.
And Jimmy just got announced in Jumanji, so way to go, Jimmy.
I think it was Mulan.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Mulan. My bad.
Yeah.
Different fun property that I remember watching as a kid.
Slightly different. All right.
So anyway, today on the episode, guys, we're going to be talking about a few things. There was a ban and restricted announcement. We're going to react to that. We are going to talk about some of the Twitter drama going on. And this is a special Chaos Draft episode. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot to break down here. Grand Prix Los Angeles happened. We were there. We had a crazy meetup, tons and tons of chaos drafting. There's a whole entire sort of like new thing that we're going to talk about doing here with chaos drafting and how it pertains to Modern and Value. So a lot to talk about today on the episode. But should we do any shout-outs? Probably not. We just did one. Let's get into the show.
Give it a shout. We'll sprinkle them in.
So why don't we start out with the
shout-out sprinkles?
Let's start with the big Modern news. Ban and restricted announcement happened on
Nothing
Monday.
happened.
Yeah, which is like, I had a whole conversation with Ari Lax at GPLA about this.
Yeah.
And he was pretty sure nothing was going to happen.
I called it.
Yes.
Called it last week.
Yes, but he's a pro that wins events, and now they're
but I call things and they come true because I am a prophet.
You're a prophet
of Crufix.
Can we get that as a sound drop? Alex is a prophet. So Courser of Crufix? Is that what you mean?
No, prophet of Crufix.
Oh, is that the green blue thing? Mm-hmm. Untap stuff?
One that's banned in Commander.
Because it's like instant speed.
It was just like too good to make blue green, too good to make Commander.
Okay.
We're not Commander talk. If you want to know about that, go to the Command Zone.
Yes.
They'll tell you exactly why Prophet of Crufix is banned.
So
that's why I'm banned from Commander, Ben. I can't play it anymore. That's why I'm on the Masters of Modern podcast.
So I think this is pretty interesting. You know, no bannings. No unbannings. I think your theory is usually that they happen at a very specific time for a specific reason, right?
There's a few things. One is that, KCI isn't currently in a position that is as problematic as either Eggs nor Eldrazi Winter was. And those are the reasons for emergency bannings, which are ones that happen outside of the cycle. And if you look at what Eldrazi Winter was like, it was obviously KCI isn't that problematic. And then if you look at the issue with Eggs, there are similarities. They're both kind of, toxic to watch on live stream. They both are really uninteractive artifact decks. But one of the key differences to me, and one of the reasons I think Wizards isn't I think it'll eventually be banned. And if you are worried about the deck you're playing, check out Zach L6, really sweet deck he played this weekend, because I think that'll replace it. But the deck itself wins in a different way than Eggs, in the sense that Eggs goes off for 20 minutes on a turn, but then doesn't win. versus KCI, which once it starts comboing off, if you can't stop it, it pretty much is going to win. So there are more points for opponents to scoop without feeling like it's an incorrect move. So it allows for the time of the match to kind of move forward in a little bit of a more successful way. And in a way that's less detrimental to kind of the way the tournament is being run. It's bad for coverage, and KCI doing really well at a top 8 is going to be kind of problematic always. And I do think it's a deck that Wizards doesn't want to be good in the format in the long run, and I think something like Ancient Stirrings or a more key piece of KCI is going to go away. People are saying Mox Opal, but it's a $109 card, and Wizards hasn't yet banned a card that is that expensive. They normally kill a different card from a deck to make it less of a problem. And it also is just like more of a key piece in other artifact strategies that I think are fine existing versus something like Ancient Stirrings, which is giving a few different decks that are all relatively behated a little too much power level. It also is silly that that's unbanned and Preordained is unbanned, but I think that's also not going to happen in the, so that's the first thing, is that it's not as bad as eggs. The second thing is, right now we're in a situation, we're in the middle of PPTQ season.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good
banning
point.
a card in the middle of PPTQ season when it's not necessary. There's no Pro Tour coming up. There's not really a GP. The PPTQs are not getting detrimentally affected by KCI. As we mentioned, it's not a big problem for tournament play. It's bad for coverage. It's bad for like the people playing. It's unfun to play against. But like, ripping a deck out from under people who have been grinding that season all season is a way to get them to quit Magic. And it's pretty detrimental for it. It's why they like doing banning and unbannings like almost 6 months ahead of time. That's why the Modern Pro Tour is in, I mean, among other reasons, but one of the reasons it's in February, and the PPTQ season is so separated from it, is it gives people the 6 months or 3 months they need to be able to build the cool decks that they saw at the Pro Tour that is Modern focused for that Modern season that they'll actually be grinding at stores. And you don't want to adjust the format in that drastic of a way out from under people, because that's like a serious cost to them and what their plans were for that year. And then the last one is bannings happen alongside the Pro Tour. I mean, Wizards has made the decision, or at least this last year, they made the decision to have them happen after the Pro Tour instead of before, to let the Pro Tour kind of break the format and then unban things to make it so whatever the Pro Tour did harm to Modern was fixed by an unbanning, mixing it up versus mixing it up before the Pro Tour. So we'll see how that functions this time around. This last Pro Tour was different because we had a break, so there was a time where pros weren't fixing to break Modern, so it was a little bit more exciting to see what they could do, and stuff like KCI and Humans got cemented out of that. But this next Pro Tour, and this last Pro Tour, the one that just happened for the Magic 25 anniversary, where a format was it Vengevine decks showed up, so that was cool. And we'll see what happens for this Pro Tour, and if they think enough of Standard has affected it. We're going back to Ravnica, a set and block that historically has affected Modern every single time we've gone back.
Right.
And so it's going to be really fascinating to see what happens there.
So, yeah, I think most of your points, though, that was the longest run-on sentence of all time, so I'm trying to remember what the first thing you said was, actually.
The 3 points I haven't written down because I listed it are middle of PPTQ season.
Yes.
It's not as bad as eggs. And it's not as problematic as for an emergency reason needing a ban, and it's not near the Pro Tour.
Okay. So, I think you have a strong point as far as the time that bannings happen. The one thing that I am a little concerned about, and I've been focusing on this, we talked about this about 2 weeks ago on the show. It was a point you brought up, which is an article you had read talking about sort of that each of the major archetypes in Modern are represented by one respective deck, and that Modern is actually not as diverse as people think. Again, in that same conversation with Ari and a couple other pros at the GP, I started to really think about this, and when I got home, I looked at the results just of a basic Modern challenge, right?
Sure.
Just an online, and I'll tell you, the top 16 is brutal. It's just it's a smattering of like 6 decks. It's basically like Blue Eye Control, Humans, Hollow One, KCI, Mono Green Tron. I'm probably forgetting like one good deck, and that's basically it. Like, there was a Dredge deck in there. But like those fun fringe decks that feel like they kind of define Modern, the things that you can do that are cool, they don't really feel like they're breaking through anymore. It really feels like Modern has become...
I don't think that's fair. I think like you're looking at the sample size of the last month when Modern kind of rotates more on a 2 to 3 month basis. I think that KCI and Hollow One and Humans have, yes, the 3 of them together have kind of forced it into a little bit of a status of like flatness. But literally a year ago, we were having the same conversation about death.
Grixis Death Shadow. It was actually Jund Shadow, and then it became Grixis Shadow.
Right.
Yeah. So totally. And so I think that the decision to ban something will happen in a few months if we see this continue. If it's the same in 3 months, or I guess the next one is October 10th, I think.
Do not invest in KCI. Literally at the GP, we did a meetup, and we'll talk about what that was like. And at the very end of it, someone we were playing with, I think her name was Rachel. We met her at the GP, and she was laying out the like beginnings of her building KCI for Modern, and like I literally at the point, and she hadn't bought any of the expensive cards. She didn't have Mox Opals or anything. It was like, just so you know, be careful with the deck you're investing in, because there will be cards banned out of it by the end of the next 365 days.
There are really strong investments.
I would say by the end of May, there will be cards banned out of KCI.
There are really strong investments for fringe decks that are up and coming right now. Like I think a deck that's a really strong investment is one of the Spirits decks. I think that's a very fair deck that's very competitive, that feels like it's only getting better. It operates kind of just like a strictly better Merfolk in a lot of ways. I think a lot of the cards are cheap, and I think you're going to see that a lot of those cards that are cheap now, like a Rattle Chains and Selfless Spirit, in a couple years, all those cards I think are going to have doubled in value if that deck stays. And it's such a cohesive mixture of power, that deck, that I really do think that you're going to see all the Spell Quellers and all those cards in a few years. They'll have appreciated in value. I don't think you're going to lose money on that investment.
Yeah, I think there's a few decks. The other deck that I thought I wanted to point out that was cool, and I brought it up previously, but Zach Elsick did just pilot this crazy artifact deck, and his statement was basically, this deck is legit. It does things very powerfully, but in a field where every single opponent is ready to fight KCI with like 4 sideboard Stony Silences, it's has a much harder time kind of getting through. But that's a deck to invest in, because KCI is going to get banned, and then the world's going to
play the Elsick deck.
Well, no, I think they're going to just not forget about artifact decks, and then Tron, that and Affinity are going to come back and start pounding face again.
Do you remember my statement that I left GP Santa Clara with Ryan Sconard and Steve St. Clair last year? The phrase I kept saying. This deck needs more Claws of Gix. Well, guess what card Zach Elsick was playing in his main deck?
As a 1/of.
Yeah, Claws of Gix. Yeah. I will say this, though, and I've said this before. When you look at Modern, you look at like what's interesting and how you can break the format or do weird things that people don't expect. You have to find things that are unique, right? That only 1 or 2 things in the format allow you to do. And so Greater Gargadon, I've said this before, is like a super unique card that like doesn't really have a lot of other things that can do what it does. It basically is a permanent sacrifice outlet for free. Claws of Gix is not as good, but for 1 colorless at instant speed, you can sacrifice anything on your board.
Right. And as Michael Groth, a producer of the podcast today, and frequent guest, just pointed out, it does have 4 War of Invention, so you can't find
the 1
Claws of Gix.
For 3 at instant speed.
Yeah.
Or even for less than 3 if you have blue permanents. Right? Because don't you need to tap blue things to reduce the cost?
I don't think you can reduce the cost of things. It's you tap artifacts.
Oh, it's not like Convoke. You have to.
It's like half. It's like a 2/3 of a Convoke's.
Got it. Yeah. Not how improvise works. Strong point, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
From across the room. Love it. So anyway, guys, that was the ban restricted announcement. Not a huge surprise to most people, I think. I
think investing in decks out of Modern right now that run Ancient Stirrings is a mistake. I don't know which card out of those decks, and I do think it's a different piece of KCI. I don't think they're going to ban actual KCI. I don't think they're going to ban, unless they really think this deck needs to go, but I don't think they like doing that. Like every other time they didn't ban, Amulet is still available. They banned Summer Bloom. And so the other thing is it's that Mox Opal or Ancient Stirrings, and one of those is I want to invest in decks that are prioritizing any of those cards.
And of the premier decks, thinking about what would kill them versus like the cards that you own, would they be useful in other decks? I think there are cards that I can see in these major decks that I don't expect to be problematic. So like, for instance, if you wanted to buy Aether Vial, I don't see Vial ever getting banned. That's a pretty fair card. It's really good in a lot of different decks. You can build a lot of cool creature decks with it.
6 months later, Aether Vial banned. Good.
I think like Vial plays nicely into the idea. If you're afraid of buying Cavern of Souls, for instance, I don't expect Cavern to be banned. It would strike me as surprising. And
I would see Unclaimed Territory, right?
No, Ziggurat's the one you're thinking of.
No.
You think Territory would be the one?
I think between Cavern of Souls and Unclaimed Territory, if I'm Wizards, one has been fine for years and is like the piece that holds a lot of good, is like a good tool for decks, even though it's expensive. The other one is like an uncommon that they just printed.
Yeah, and so I think the reason that I like the idea of buying Cavern is because I do think that and I've said this before, but if humans was to die for some reason, like, I don't know if they banned like multiple cards, like if they banned like Reflector Mage and Meddling Mage, or I don't know what they would do, but or Freebooter or something, some way to make humans like not potent. I think you would actually probably be able to find another 5-color tribal deck within a year. Like something else would just become powerful. I think that shell would function with like slivers or something.
I forget who was mentioning this, but it was on Twitter, and like one of the problems with humans is it's just the best tribe, period. It's going to be on every set ever printed. So every set that we go back to, we are going to get more humans cards, and some of them are actually going to be powerful. And as we kind of go through formats, like that's like, even if they ban cards from it, we're just going to keep getting more good humans. If they ban any piece of humans right now, within the next 2 years, they'll print another humans card that's good enough, and then kind of bring it back.
I know, but I guess my point is I mean, that's true. That is true.
So like slivers, maybe we revisit a set with slivers, and they
so
get
my
there.
point though is this: it seems like each time they go and they go back to a tribe that's in more than one color, that tribe immediately becomes like a modern playable tribe. So like Spirits was Fringe. Then they went back and they gave us a couple good Spirits for one block, and all of a sudden Spirits is totally legit.
Right, and I would like, if I were to rank most commonly returned to tribes, I would like, it's like humans and like zombies and spirits like right after that.
Yeah, right.
Because like both of them are things that whenever we go to a set, they kind of show up, and spirits show up in every color.
Yeah.
Where zombies only show up really in black, and then if depending on how a set's doing, sometimes now it's in white, and it definitely was in.
But like elementals are another one that they consistently print elementals in all colors. And so anyway.
The problem with elementals is that just like I think the like average converted mana cost of an elemental
like
is
5 or
4
something.
or 5
Yeah.
versus like the average converted mana cost of a spirit or a human is 2.
But I think we're on the same page about this, though. I think those are reasonable buys. So that's the big announcement. There was no announcement, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on Twitter right now. Before we get into it, I do want to remind everybody here that we have a Facebook group, the Masters of Modern Facebook group.
You're not going to segue into the Twitter section with our Twitter accounts?
Everybody knows where to find us on Twitter.
At the MMcast?
Yeah, you can find us on at the MMcast. But
I'm at Kes Wiley.
I'm at Ben Bateman Media.
Snuck that in there.
We've got a Facebook group. It's got almost 5,000 people in it now. Everybody talks Modern on there.
It has
Super
5,000
duper fun.
I'll look right now. Keep talking.
And everybody likes to talk about Modern, and there's tons of groups that are inspired by it and all sorts of things. So
no, we're at 4,397 members.
Yeah.
Someone listening to this podcast right now who hasn't been on there could be the 400.
Yeah, the 4,400th. Yes, there's a bunch of people. It's really fun. What's going on Twitter? Talk to me about some of the controversies.
So as all weekend Twitter events happen, one of the big ones is just, and I think it all kind of stems maybe from this, is that the Hall of Fame voting period has started. And alongside that comes just every other pro player is talking badly about every other pro player, because that's how it works. And they someone's like, oh, this person should be in the Hall of Fame, and then 6 people bring up, oh, that guy plays slowly, that guy cheats, that guy was an asshole to me at one point. And so that's just causing a lot of drama beyond that. Like for instance, Morrow, a bunch of people are yelling at Morrow because he has always supported Mike Long to be added to the Hall of Fame, because he thinks that in early days of Magic, Mike Long was someone that he kind of galvanized people against. And through that process, people hate him, but he thinks that he was really important to the creation of the Magic Pro Tour in general. But then apparently because he became a villain, he then cheated a few times. And so there's layers of that as an issue. And then now it's come into who's a cheater? Does slow play matter? There's Seth Manfield. People have accused him of being a slow player or doing slow play, but that's kind of more circumstantial. Nothing's ever happened to him. And you just have kind of layers and layers of people having problems.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what's happening there. But that stemmed, because Bertocchini is back. He top 8'd the GP this last weekend.
He was the number 1 player going into the top 8.
Right.
And I was sitting there on Sunday.
And he got a game loss for marked cards in the top 8.
He did?
Yeah.
Bertocchini did?
Yeah.
What a jerk. I can't believe that.
Producer, can you confirm?
Is that true?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Wow. He
Game lost for marked cards, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He was announced as the number 1 player, and I'm not kidding you, the entire hall booed.
Wow.
He got booed loudly by everybody there. It was one of those things that's how is one of 3 things not happened? How do you want to continue playing a game that this is how the community feels about you? Or how have you not been handed a lifetime ban? It seems insane to me that you would you would do the best you can possibly do in a tournament of that size and be booed by the whole hall and want to return to the game. I don't care how much money I can win. It's like it's not that much money.
And I think if you look at why he keeps doing it, I do think some people enjoy being the villain. Like, being infamous is sometimes possibly as fun to people as being famous, and him being that person in the community is something maybe he revels in. I also think like there's money on the line, and he knows that he can get away with it and win some of that money, and so he's just trying to get paid for something he's like good at, and arguably he's both probably decent at Magic and then also good at cheating at Magic, and so those two things together give him the confidence that he's going to do well at enough of these tournaments to keep participating.
Have you ever met Alex?
I've not.
Nor have I. So to clarify, this is all speculation. I've never had a conversation with a guy. I don't have any inside information, nor do you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the idea of like why someone would want to be part of this community if they boo him when he gets announced to be part of the top 8.
For sure. Yeah. and again, like, I'll bet you, even if he has been somebody who's been accused and even caught cheating several times, he's probably pretty good at Magic also. Like, he probably knows the game really, really, really well.
Right.
And then also cheats.
Yeah.
So...
I think I agree. Like, BDM posted today that there needed to be some kind of 3 strikes rule. He worded it differently than I'm wording it, but it's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
That, like, if you get DQ'd or banned from Magic for cheating more than 3 times or 3 or more times, you should just not be allowed to play in Premier Play ever again.
I totally agree.
I think that's an easy win. I think the fact that, you know, there are... Yeah, I think that's just the solution here.
Well, because also, like, as somebody who... I've never made it to a pro tour. I've never top 8 at a GP, right? I've had like a couple finishes where I've like played several hundred people and gotten to a top 8 or like, you know, whatever, done well. And it is such a grind, and you have to fight so hard to get that far, that to lose to someone at a high level because they're cheating, it's beyond the feel bads. It's like, it's not even, it's so beyond sports. It's like playing a whole entire half season of a sport and then losing a game to cheating. And what it feels like.
With this Alex situation, it's also like, you know, we're getting to the point where most people that know who he is when they play against him, just like call a judge over and have that judge hover over the table. And if you have a player who's like sapping resources in that way, just because they are so infamous for being a cheater that people know that this is something that's going to happen, that you have to call judges over to kind of watch your match, and then that judge's time is being spent having to babysit this player. Yeah, like, why? What's the value to that?
I know, it's so crazy. I just can't imagine being him and wanting to continue playing this game. But all that being said,
because you like people liking you.
I do like that.
I do too. Yeah. I like that more than most things. So yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Back to the Hall of Fame though, because we didn't get into that. You know, there's 2 pieces of this drama. I guess before we get into one half, who would you want to be
in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Who do you have a pick? I have like 2 that
this
maybe 3.
This is not a subject that I usually pay very close attention to. So
sure.
I don't know who's up this year. I know Ruben, our friend Ruben Bressler, was somebody who is in the conversation this year, right?
No. Ruben gets to vote.
Oh, that's what it is. Ruben gets to vote.
Yeah. Which is the other half of this drama.
Got it.
Not specifically that Ruben gets to vote, but that content creators that aren't pro players
members get to vote.
Yeah, like community participants that have achieved status in that side have given invites to be able to vote for the Hall of Fame this year.
Who are the big players that are up this
year?
It
happened last year as well. The big, I think my 3 picks, or like 3 conversations that I've seen a lot of, is Seth Manfield is a big one. Mm-hmm. He just like has killed it and been the best player in Magic for like 4 years in a row. I mean, if not the best, in the top 5.
Yeah, he's
best,
really good. And he's a modern player too, which is sweet.
Modern player is cool. You know, he's one of the people that like this. Like, does he have problematic cheatings or not? And then Chris Pakula is the other big one. Meddling Mage. He is one of the key. He was one of the main people that get the community against cheating in the early days of the Magic Pro Tour. There's a lot of people that could point at Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And compare them, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is rife with cheaters. I believe the top 5 players have all been banned at one point from Yu-Gi-Oh! Where with Magic, because of the effort of people like Chris Pakula, and Chris Pakula was a big figurehead of this kind of movement, cheaters are lambasted, and kind of the reaction to Alex Percini is something that happens in the community, which I think is really good. I like that the community is against this kind of play style, and on top of that, he's a good player. He's another pro tour. He's
play style, i.e. cheating.
Yeah. And you know, those are 2 of them. My personal pick is Gary T.
Just Jerry T.
Jerry T. He's getting my Hall of Fame vote if I had one. I don't know. He's really like obviously also performs very well, and another community member that's very like positive
super friendly, and he brews and like makes awesome brews.
My last one, and this is the other controversy, is BDM.
Love it.
But I also think just like, you know, me and Michael had a long conversation about this earlier this week. I believe that the Magic Hall of Fame needs to have additional wings added that include a coverage wing and also a community member wing that like don't necessarily come with Pro Tour invites. I think having the Pro Tour Hall of Fame be a wing on its own that comes with that Pro Tour invite part of it, but maybe it comes with appearance fees, maybe it comes with other pieces of it. But people like the Professor, people like Wedge, people like BDM, people like other kind of large participants, Cedric
Phillips.
Yeah, Cedric Phillips have all contributed to Magic in such a significant way that is probably arguably more than a lot of these pro players that have like that are in the Hall of Fame, but because they haven't done well at a Pro Tour, they don't get that status. And figuring out different ways for them to be supported through GP, you know, like one Wedge or the Professor show up to a GP, they are contributing to that GP on a level that is significant, and they should be rewarded for that in ways. And I think the Hall of Fame is a way to do that, but it doesn't have to come with a Pro Tour invite.
What do you think your chances all time, if your percentage right now, to ever play on a Magic Pro Tour?
Mine?
Yeah.
Less than 5%.
Less than 5%?
I think yours is higher than mine.
Still low. Still very low.
Sure, but mine is like less than 5%. You have to work very hard specifically at that, and I am not in a point in my life where that's going to be happening. And like, yes. Well, I think you have a higher chance of spiking a GP than I do as well. Like
just because?
I think you're tighter at gameplay than I play, and you play in more GPs than I play in.
Recently, yeah. I think the GP that I have the best chance in would be limited, though, is the funny part. It's not, I don't think it would be modern. I like don't.
Well, that's because you like
won't play
for branding purposes take like fun, interesting decks that are doing something different versus good decks. And I think like the last GP actually, you know, when you take a deck. When you've gone to a GP and you've taken a deck that you've worked on by yourself and then you go into the GP, you've had less success than I think when you've taken decks that we've worked on together or you worked on with the community. Like, I think Superior Burning Cocoa or Kessel Run or decks like that where you've had better finishes with have happened because they've had more of a communal effort and testing effort behind them.
As opposed to like my just like fixating on some stupid
like,
flame jab.
How can I break Claws of Gix and what's the Greater Gargadon in the same deck with Wellsprings? And I've tested this 3 times at Heidi Ho, and now I'm taking it to a GP. Which I think the Moto effort you're going to be making over the next in the future is going to help.
So it's a good segue, actually. So I have now played probably about 20 games on Moto. Okay. I am learning it a little bit at a time. I've been playing a couple different of my brews, but like kind of bad ones. But I have been playing and learning, and I'm within now, I would say, 2 weeks of launching the Twitch stream, actually doing it. Ryan Sconnard, who is a good friend and has now been on a couple of my unified teams for these events, who I see at GPs a lot, actually hung out with this weekend, was kind enough to be like, hey man, you know, I can help you out with any cards, you know, that you need to stream with. You can borrow or we can trade, you know, what have you. Incredibly generous offer, which means that for now, until we have a major sponsor who just wants to give us an entire collection, between your collection and his collection and the trading aspect and whatnot, I should be able to at least stream.
And maybe there's an argument to take like my collection and put it back into its account so that you can kind of keep stuff separate a little bit easier, and it depends on how easy that is.
This is the live on podcast realization moment. Yeah.
I don't have a PC anymore, so playing Moto is a lot harder.
Yeah, totally. So that is a thing. I'm very excited about that, and yeah, so that's our Hall of Fame conversation.
Moto, you didn't give me your picks.
I don't like. I mean,
or your opinions on whether content creators should be allowed to vote for
definitely content creators should be allowed to vote. Like, I think that
like in sports, like newscasters that have participated in the sport get the vote. It is a controversial point, but they do get to do it. And part of that is also like, I would bet that a legendary basketball reporter knows more about the overall effects different players have on the game than even, say, Michael Jordan does, though he was an owner. But, like, then, say, LeBron does, because LeBron is on the field and playing against them, but this guy has, like, been paying attention to the stats of all these players and comparing them and seeing how they affect the game outside of their participation.
The flip side of that coin, and this is what happens with sports, like, literally. Like, this is funny, because we don't really go into sports much here, but this last 2 weeks ago, the NFL Hall of Fame finally put Terrell Owens into the Hall of Fame, and T.O. has been up for like several years now as a potential guy to make it. He's one of the most controversial football players of all time. Incredibly loud, incredibly ostentatious, was not liked by a lot of people. But when he got up there, it basically was like, I deserve this. You know, you guys waited too long. You know, like basically was like, I feel dissed.
Right.
And he should, because it's a bunch of sports writers who are like, he was a locker room cancer, but it's like, he's like got the second or third greatest stats in the history of football receivers. There's no way he shouldn't have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. And so that's a little bit of the problem when you put media members in, is that their opinions influence these decisions.
I think it's also percentages. I mean, like, if sports have too many media members voting versus, like, I don't think right now that's kind of something that we're worrying about, is that too many media people are voting. But like, Ruben Bressler is not only someone who is a person who pays attention to the Pro Tour, participates with members of the Pro Tour, is friends with a lot of these players, plays in these tournaments, grinds at these GPs, but is also a content creator. Like, I think that's a fair point. I don't think Wizards has invited people that are just like, oh, hey, like, we can't vote for Hall of Fame members, and I don't think we deserve to at this point. I don't even know if, like, even Jimmy and Josh do. And like, they're obviously content contributors to the next level, but their interaction with the Pro Tour is minimal.
Right.
And like, there's a difference between a press person who is heavily focused on Pro Tour play and a content contributor. That's why I also think there just needs to be a content contributor, because I think Jimmy and Josh arguably should be maybe part of a contributor Hall of Fame. I don't think they need to be invited to a Pro Tour.
Sure, right. That makes sense. So that wraps us up on our Twitter conversation. I don't really have my Hall of Fame picks because I'm not really super aware of who is up for the Hall of Fame.
My picks, who's your favorite?
Of those 3 or 4, I really like Jerry T a lot.
Yeah.
I think Jerry's a great player. I think his brews and his contributions have been pretty fantastic. I like Chris a lot too, but Chris is much more of like that classic Magic ilk. And I think a lot of those classic guys who played a lot in the early days get a lot of credit, and it's such a different playing field now. I don't think it means that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's been a very vocal member, but I don't know. I think, honestly, if I'm being totally real with you, the Hall of Fame is a subject that if I really wanted to have strong opinions on, I would feel like I would want to like do a little more research to figure out when were people inducted, why were they inducted. There are certain people that I like know should have been that were,
right.
But it's as far as somebody like a Pakula, where I'm like, I basically know that he's on the card meddling mage. I remember watching some of his old matches.
Sure.
I see him pop up on Twitter here and there, but he doesn't feel like he's part of the modern face of Magic. It's very hard to compare that to somebody like Jerry, who I've been so interactive with, and like
even like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, people are inducted to it decades after they've stopped producing content that was key or relevant at that moment. Like, in fact, that happens more often. The Hall of Fame doesn't necessarily have to be that. And Chris Pakula is still an active member of the community. Like, for instance, Mike Long can't be inducted in the Hall of Fame. It's one of the silly things of everyone yelling at Morrow, because that person is no longer even eligible.
He's the Pete Rose.
Because he's like, last year was the last time he could have been voted on or something along those lines.
I would basically say I don't feel that any of the players or people you mentioned.
I have some Michael Grothy things I need to read.
Such as?
He has opinions on this. Yeah, it's just weird right now because all the Hall of Fame members get a lifetime into the Pro Tour, so it only makes sense to let people in that deserve to be playing at the Pre-T, which is weird for a Hall of Fame. I then shouted new wings, new prizes, GP appearance fears or something. Then the difference is that every single sports game is on camera, where Magic games are primarily seen by the players on the floor, and players have opinions too.
Fair.
I guess, but that we're not saying that they don't. I think players are currently the main people that vote for who gets into the Hall of Fame, and that they are the major person who gets to decide who's going into it.
I don't have a strong argument for why any of the people you mentioned shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, is basically my point. That's like, and I don't like to make statements on subjects that I don't feel super educated on.
Sure.
It's like not something that I like to do, because I generally feel like
make a strong statement. You're gonna have to stick to it, whatever you pick. Even if they it comes out that they're a cheater or they've stolen a bunch of cards from a store, you're gonna have to.
I'll make a strong statement.
Okay.
Chaos drafting is sweet.
Okay, we're going to that now.
Yeah, we are. Okay. So at GPLA, we did a couple of things that were super fun. So because of this Grimoire, the pack Grimoire that we're starting to do now on the show, I was talking to vendors about their loose product, right? To find out who wanted to sort of be involved. Do people want to sponsor the giveaways, what have you? And in doing so, realized that we could put together some sweet chaos drafts. Now, we had a Masters of Modern meetup that we did at the show, and about 40, 50 people showed up, and we ran a couple chaos drafts. which was super, super fun. The sets were incredible, and it really brought to mind that if you do chaos drafts, not just with like kind of crap, like if you like actually get some nice packs in there, it can be like a really interesting experience.
I don't know if I even agree with that, because like the best card that was opened, or the best pack that was opened even out of the entire chaos draft, was a Dominaria pack. Because it had a foil Karn and a Mox Amber.
It's crazy in the same pack.
In the same pack, which was like dope. But
is Mox Amber still more expensive than Teferi, or is it less now? It's gone down.
I have no idea.
Way less.
Way less?
Way less.
Got it.
Yeah. Teferi is like one of the most played cards in Magic, and Mox Amber is
like
not.
No one plays. Well, no, but just being like Mox is like, even if they're not played,
it's not no one plays, and there's a paradoxical outcome deck in Standard that's playing that Mox.
Sick.
How? It goes off with it just needs 0 cost artifacts. It doesn't.
It doesn't actually produce any mana.
I had this deck built in Standard. Yeah. I had the deck built in
Sick.
I had the deck built in Standard before stuff rotated, and I was playing with 4 Bone Saw and 4 of the like accordion shield or whatever. So it just needs like 0 cost artifacts.
That's a legendary. Isn't that a legendary artifact? That's so bad.
You also have Ornithopter. But yeah,
I love that Mox Amber is worse than a quarter shield in the deck.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. No, because sometimes you have Scythopterus and that actually produces mana. But the Chaos Draft, it's like almost just the older the packs, the cooler it is. Like I would say the best packs that I got to like even play with were the Weatherlight packs that we added, which are more expensive packs. But then we like did what we talked about when we did the pack opening earlier, which is Homelands and
Fallen Empires.
And Fallen Empires together as one pack. Like someone opening both of those.
The reason we do that is because if you guys don't know this, those sets were printed in 1994 and 6 respectively, and they have 8 cards per pack. So if you want it to be an actual draft pack, you have to either do 2 of one or split the 2 of them for a chaos draft.
Ice Age packs were the other pack that was actually really cool.
Yeah,
They're really bad. All these cards are bad, but
yeah,
the Ice Age packs were so bad but so good.
Oh, I'll tell you what. So let's do some.
My favorite thing doing at the entire draft was when I got one of these old packs was picking the most text on a card and then reading it out loud to the table.
Oh my god. Some of those old packs. I'm trying to remember the name of the card that is like so sweet because it was an Ice Age card. I actually didn't get it in that Chaos Draft that night. I got it the next day. I believe it's called Fire Covenant. Is that correct? So do you know what this card does? This is such a bonkers limited card. It'll blow your mind. Mm-hmm. Okay, Fire Covenant, guys. Black, red, 1, instant. Mm-hmm. Fire Covenant deals X damage divided any way you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is the amount of life you choose to pay. Effects that prevent or redirect this damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. I'll just instant speed black, red, 1, pay 7, and one-sided Wrath you, and then with my extra mana, second main phase, I'll play a creature. Like, so busted, insane, broken bananas, like... This is probably one of the best limited cards I've ever seen. I can't think of many cards in limited that are more powerful than this.
On the opposite end, my favorite card and this is a famous card because this is a common from Ice Age.
Yeah.
Balduvian Shaman.
Oh yeah, I remember this card.
1 blue, summon Cleric. Tap, permanently change the text of target white enchantment you control that does not have cumulative upkeep by replacing all instances of one color word with another. For example, you may change counters black spells to counters blue spells on an enchantment. Balduvian Shaman cannot change mana symbols. That enchantment now has a cumulative upkeep of 1.
Michael just mentioned the card Dreams of the Dead. Do you remember what this card does?
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, you look it up. My best card in my draft deck that night was, I believe, called Thelonite Hermit or Thelonite Druid. I can't remember which one it's called, but it's green 2 from Fallen Empires for a 1/1. That for green and 1, I can tap it to sacrifice a creature and turn all of my forests into 2/3 creatures. I won several games with this card. It was actually the best card in my entire deck. I was kind of blown away by it.
Dreams of the Dead. Take target 1 in a blue, so you can do this as many times as you want, as long as you have a colorless and a blue. Take target white or black creature from your graveyard and put it directly into play as though it were just summoned. That creature now requires an additional cumulative upkeep of 2. If that creature leaves play, remove it from the game. That seems like just a great card.
Is it an enchantment?
It is an enchantment.
For how much?
4.
So for 4 mana, you can
reanimate 1 of black creatures. It has a cumulative upkeep too, so I feel like
you just pay it
that's
once.
That's a better card than Seance, and I've seen people play Seance.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's instant speed, which is even better than Seance.
Yeah,
I said it was better than Seance.
Just 2 mana block.
Into it.
So there was some really fun packs. It was kind of an interesting experience because we made sure that these pods that we put people in had real packs. So for instance,
Michael was making the point that it was unreasonable and limited. That was the point he was making.
Yeah.
Not that it was like a wordy card that made no sense.
It's like really good.
Yeah.
Also wordy.
It is wordy.
So the pods were like, we had like Modern Masters 13, 15, and 17.
Mm-hmm.
We had Iconic Masters, Masters 25.
We had a bunch of M sets. So we had...
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6. There was like 5 or 6 core sets.
Not every core set since M10, because there was an M10, but it was like M12, M14, M15,
13,
M13,
15,
and
there was an Origins pack in one of them, maybe. We had all that. There was like some, all the newer packs, like everything, the last like 7 or 8 sets were in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also had like a Lauren pack, a Guild pack packed, Weatherlight, Ice Age.
Right.
There was like some other really, really cool ones. Like I'm pretty sure we had Innistrad, Avacyn Restored.
Guild pack was there. There's a lot of really fun stuff. I do think, so, we were talking about this before. Something that we might start doing is doing monthly versions of this in our local area, and then kind of posting our pack list and start designing kind of formats around themes. Because I think the one issue I've always had with Chaos Draft, it's not a real issue, is that just like gold packs are terrible, and then there are some sets that are just like unplayable. Like Battle for Zendikar is an actively bad setting.
We opened Conflux, I think, in one of the
Chaos
pods.
packs, yeah, because processors are unplayable in the format, as are allies, some of the allies are better out of BFC than necessarily they were in Zendikar.
I played like the 2-mana green guy that's like a 1/1 that like just becomes a 2/2. He's just like a grizzly bear. Sure.
And so figuring out ways to kind of build stuff around it, like doing a Graveyards Matters Chaos Draft where you play with like Homelands, which is a graveyard set, but you also can play with Odyssey, and you have Innistrad and both Innistrads, and you even can play probably with some Ravnicas because you have Golgari and other things have graveyard themes, or you play with Khan's
there's
block.
like a way to design it that I think is really cool. You can find the interactions between, for instance, processors and suspend cards, and like where you can cool. And like that's interesting. And I think that there's like a really fun way because some packs are crazy expensive,
right?
But so like we're probably not going to put Future Sight into anything, but like it's not that crazy. Like you can get a lot of really sweet packs for $20 or less.
Sure.
And especially if we have like store support where we're going to talk about it on the show and like try to sort of make it a communal content creation experience. It's definitely a fun thing that we're interested in doing. So Chaos Drafting is, I think it's somewhere between, I guess Chaos Drafting is just random packs, and what we're talking about are specific, uniquely created draft formats.
Sure. Well, you did this once before too, didn't you?
Yeah,
where you did like a
few
huge
years ago.
draft format at Heidi Ho.
Yeah,
that was like,
it was years ago.
It was before the podcast. It was like 2 years before the podcast.
And I had like it was like a draft marathon. It was like 3 different drafts that day, and like they were all kind of themed like this.
Yeah.
They were cool, but like it was really hard to get the community members to buy in, so I had to kind of cost balance it so there could be prizes.
Sure.
The trick to this is you cost balance it so there are no prizes, because then you can actually just get the value of the packs. And if it's for like $30, you can get like a really sweet draft.
I think you could do one prize, which is just like the winner gets a dope pack. Like I think that's on theme.
That's what I did.
A mat or something.
That's what I did on Sunday. I organized another one of these with like 8 people, and the winner got a single pack of Modern Masters 1. But I won it, so I just had to buy myself the pack.
And I mean, so like, and the reason that we even got into this is because we just started buying a bunch of packs for the pack openings that we're now doing once a week, and we'll do it before the live stream. And we did it for the people on the live stream, but for people that are on the episode, the way it works is we get 2 packs at random from this giant selection of cool packs that we have now, and Ben and I will each open one, and one of those packs, the winner of that gets to give it to either the Patreon or the live chat.
And it's sponsored by Wizardry Foundry, so actually every couple of weeks we're going to be shipping out a grimoire loaded with the winnings of the packs. These grimoires are these awesome boxes. They look like leather-bound books.
This is a PT1.
They're like carrying cases for your cards. They're super cool. And so that's like what we store all the packs in. So yeah, it's a thing we did. If you actually go to the YouTube channel, you can see the pack openings. We're going to be posting those every single week. And the best way to be involved there is if you're in the live chat here, which there's a handful of you guys in here, it'll be the live chat versus the Patreon. If you're a member of both, if Patreon and the live chat, then you'll be entered in both drawings to win the openings from the packs. We're giving everything we open away. So
and so beyond that, obviously getting onto the Patreon is really helpful. It supports us, makes this podcast happen. We are able to make more and future content. That's how we're able to start kind of expanding all of the content creation we're expanding right now. Also, we have a Kickstarter going on for our first game that we're releasing on Kickstarter. It's called Battle Bosses. You can see the box right here. Ben ducks his head down. right there. It is a competitive game. We're currently at 25% within the first week, which is kind of on target for us. And it's our first game, so we're just trying to grow the community. Really appreciate it if you guys can go check it out. It's $30 again at the first tier level, and then $120 if you want to get everything in the game. It's a blast. We've tested it. Every boss kind of plays on its own, and it's the same thing. Designed by me and Michael and the people at Kess. And we'll start releasing video content soon about that as well. And make sure to like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, like us on Twitter. We're all the MMCast everywhere.
Yeah, sweet.
Check out the Command Zone. Check out Wizardry Foundry. There's a link in the description of this and the episode to kind of find all of these things. And we'll see you guys on Thursday when this video is released on YouTube with good audio and everything. Or we'll see you guys on the podcast, or we'll see you guys every Tuesday when we live stream it on YouTube as well.
Run on sentences. We love you guys. See ya.